Hey, it's Lee. Welcome to Business Problem Solve. Today, I have the immense pleasure of chatting with business coach Harry Armistead. This is another episode on real people, real stories, real value, and Harry definitely ticks all three boxes. How are you, Harry?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Yes, I am a real person. I can confirm.
Yeah, you are indeed. I can see you. I can see you. So, but for those people who don't know who Harry is, who is Harry, and how has he got to that seat today?
Okay, thank you. So Harry, or I, as I like to refer to myself, am a a business coach, but I particularly focus on mindset. The reason for that is quite simple. I think when people are looking to build their businesses, and bear in mind, people don't come into business to have, a life of kind of mediocrity. They want a successful business. They want something more than they can get from a job. So what I found is that if you don't start at the most fundamental level, i.e. with your mindset, then it doesn't matter how good your systems are, the processes, the tools, the people around you, it's still going to collapse. So that's why I focus in on business people and on mindset in particular.
Perfect. So how did you get to this place, though, Harry? How did you get to the place where you realised that you wanted to work with business people, that mindset was fundamental? Just would you talk us through your journey to where those revelations came from?
Absolutely, and it was a bit of an accident, to be fair, as I think it is for a lot of people. They just kind of find themselves in the place and go, "Oh, this is brilliant," which is what happened for me. So when I left school, my A levels were pretty shocking. My GCSEs were fine. My A levels, pretty shocking. I was kind of lost, and so I just kind of did sort of what other kids my age were doing. I went to college to do hospitality management, which was a 2-year course. And at the end of that course, the biggest learning I took from that was that I never wanted to work in hospitality ever again. And so after a little bit of time, just kind of, kicking around, I did some sales work. I did a bit of travel. I ended up working on cruise ships, which was amazing. I'm sort of in my mid-20s, having a fantastic time working on cruise ships, which, for a young single man in his 20s was a lot of fun. But again, it kind of wasn't really going to take me anywhere. So as I'm, kind of getting a bit older and, dare I say, a bit more mature, there comes the question of, okay, well, what are you really going to do? And it was whilst I was working on a cruise ship that the company I worked for rolled out across the fleet HR managers, which wasn't something that I was particularly familiar with, to be honest. And I saw this role and the person in the role, who was superb in her role, Kylie, she was called, from Australia. And I just thought she was absolutely brilliant, how she supported the crew, bearing in mind that it could be, 2,200 of us, the training that she delivered. And I thought these are the sorts of things that I really enjoy doing. Training, supportive, nurturing, really helping people grow, I suppose. So I applied to transfer into this role, which got rejected. And it got rejected on the grounds of me not having any qualification that was relevant or any suitable experience. So I thought, okay, I'll go and get it. So I then left working at sea to go back to university to study HR. And when I graduated, it was 2010. So if you remember, 2008, the whole world crashed.
Yeah.
And here in the UK, we started on what became a decade of austerity. So when I graduated in 2010 with my, brand new HR degree, although I got a job working in HR, the things that inspired me to join HR, to pursue a career in HR, the training, the nurturing, the support, and the development, all of that had been, kicked to the sidelines because we were going through a big period of change, which is redundancies, and it's really kind of screwing employees for as much as we can get, and all that kind of thing. So I persevered. I did sort of 7 years in HR and working my way up, you know, that career ladder to HR manager. But even then, it was just getting worse. You know, none of it was sort of getting better. It was just more and more of that kind of, you know, negative work that I was having to do. So for me, it became really quite toxic. And I chose to leave working within HR, which kind of then put me in a bit of a strange position. It's 2014, I'm due to get married the following year. My mother-in-law to be is extremely ill. She has vascular dementia at the time. My husband to be, who I married, Matthew, he was increasingly looking after his mum at home on their family farm. And for me to go and get an HR job of the level that I'd be looking for, I wasn't going to get that sort of where we live. It's very rural where we live, so I'd have had to have been away. So that wasn't going to be an option, coupled with, you know, don't really want to be working in that environment, or setting up that business on my own. So it took a bit of a while and a bit of thinking as to what to actually do. And then sort of by chance again, I just came across, you know, coaching as an industry. I can't even remember how it came across now. But that was something that was introduced, because coaching, as you may or may not know, you know, your listeners, it is a relatively new industry. You know, it's only really been going for, you know, maybe the last sort of 20 years, 30 at a push, and of course latterly it's just now, you know, really sort of taken off. So this was a new industry to me, but it ticked all the right boxes. You know, I have an interest in business. My first degree is in business. My second degree is within, you know, business and HR. And that's something that really excites me. I'm passionate about it. I'm quite entrepreneurial in that respect. And then, of course, the coaching side of things is about helping people to change their lives for something better. And the mindset element of all this is the long version of this story, by the way, so stop me if I'm just going on. But the, you know, the thing that kind of underpinned all of this for me was, as I'm going through school, you know, so I mentioned before, you know, I married a bloke, I'm a gay man. When I was going through school in, you know, primary school, 80s, high school, sort of 90s, you know, it wasn't as cool and hip and trendy, you know, being a gay person as perhaps it's perceived to be today. So that was really difficult, and I struggled with my mental health, and that did have an impact on me and how I interacted, you know, within sort of my environment. You know, this confident, happy guy that hopefully you see in front of you was definitely not the person I was, you know, back in the school days. And so I had that difficult time. It did affect, you know, my grades and my decisions and you know, my whole life generally at that time. Yet actually, what I've come to learn is that it doesn't need to stop you. So, you know, one of the things that I really do sort of, you know, try and sort of enforce as a message with the people that I speak to is that it doesn't matter where you are now. You know, this is a kind of limiting belief that people can have. It doesn't matter where you are, what life has already served up to you, you know, up until this point, you can change your future. And if you want to change your future, then, you know, do you have a bit of a responsibility to change your future? Because none of us surely want to, you know, get to our end of days and think, oh, I wish I'd have done that, you know, if only.
Yeah. Wow. Well, okay. Thank you for sharing that. I've got a whole host of questions. My first question is, Kylie from Australia, was that a real name and a real location where she was from?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't remember her last name, but yeah, she's called Kylie.
Minogue?
Yeah.
Was it Minogue?
No, that would have answered a lot of things, wouldn't it? It would have been Kylie Minogue, yeah. That would have filled in a few jigsaw pieces, surely.
No, amazing. Honestly, just thank you for your honesty during that. I guess my first question is when you're a child, when you're growing up, and you have and you're feeling the way that you do, what did you keep it all to yourself, or at what point did you decide to share your story and talk to people?
Okay. A really good question, and actually quite a difficult question to answer as well, because essentially the question there is, you know, when did you realize you were gay? But do we ask the same question of you know, heterosexual people? You know, when did you realize you were straight? And it's not so easy to kind of pin down. What I can certainly tell you, and this is kind of almost the tragedy, I suppose, of my kind of coming out story, was we'd recently moved home, and in moving home I had to move school. So I'm maybe 7 years old, I think, something along those lines. It was sort of first year of primary school. So you go through infants, you know, reception infants, and then, you know, whatever year it is now, 3, 4, who knows? But I was young, put it that way. And so I'm at this new school, it's out playtime, and I don't know anybody. This is maybe first, second day, you know, it's that new school. And I see a small group of lads, some from my class and some from the year above, all kind of huddled in a semicircle in the playground, and they're laughing and joking and whatever. So me, you know, this little 7-year-old thinks, right, these are the guys. You know, you want to make some friends. These look like the cool kids. Let's go and you know, talk to these guys. So as I'm walking up to them, and I remember this so vividly as well, as I'm walking up to them, they're laughing and joking, as I say, and the conversation is, you know, ha ha ha, and I'm gay, ha ha ha, yeah, I'm gay too. And I thought, cool, okay, this is my in. So I walk up to the group and I'm, ha ha, yeah, ha ha, yeah, and I'm gay as well. Now at the time, 7-year-old kid, I had no idea what that meant, no idea whatever. So I was just, you know, trying to fit in. And of course, everybody goes, you know, deathly silent and turns and look at me. Are you really? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all are, sort of thing. Brilliant. And then of course that just goes around, you know, the school. And that was a big impact then. And it kind of stuck. So all the way through primary school, you know, bearing in mind, I've got, you know, 3 or 4 years of this, you know, the little comments, you know, gay boy, puff there, you know, whatever. So I found it really difficult then to make friends and sort of fit in. And then that continued into high school, because on, you know, to high school, you get on the bus, you know, and it's the same people that you went to primary school with. Yeah. So they really, that whole situation, that really became, you know, my demons, because, you know, just to speak to those people now, and I'm friends with, you know, a good fair few of them now, you know, Facebook friends mostly, but but on friends, but having that conversation, you know, this wasn't anything that they can necessarily even recall. It, you know, it had no impact on their life, but for me it was massive. Now what I certainly can't say and wouldn't say is that you know, made me gay. It just so happens that I think they were right. It just took, you know, a decade or more for me to, you know, really come to terms with that, and not just come to terms with it, but own it, because it's not, you know, it's not a negative thing. It's not, you know, it's just part of who I am. You know, it's like having blue eyes. It's like being, you know, 5'10" tall. It's, you know, that's just it. You know, you can't change it, and nor would I want to. But of course, that whole journey, certainly back then, and certainly, you know, to a large extent can still be today, although it is considerably better today. I did very much feel like I was on my own. So it was extremely difficult to talk to anybody about it. And when I did, you know, that it didn't help. I had you know, my best friend at the time. So I'm now, I don't know, 16, 17, we're at sixth form. You know, I told him I fancied him. Not a good idea. So that damaged that relationship. And, you know, there was a few of those kind of instances where ultimately it put me in a very, very low place, very low place. And when it all came to a head, you know, I'm in my bedroom crying. Essentially, this had happened with my friend, so it was, that sort of fresh. So I'm crying because essentially, one of the two friends that I think I had, I've essentially just ruined that kind of, friendship. Very, very upset. And different members of my family would come into my room, one at a time, and try and console me and try and find out what was wrong, but I couldn't tell them. And that, after several attempts by, both sisters, an elder sister, a younger sister, my mum, my dad, my mum came back in for a second time, and again, I couldn't tell her. And then as she got up, from my bed to leave, she gets to my bedroom door, and just before she exits, she turns around to look at me and says, "Well, I just hope you're not funny, that's all." So that was my real coming out party. Yeah. Now I screamed at her, what if I am? What if I am? So, I mean, that, to be clear, things are much, much different now.
Yeah.
I have a brilliant relationship with my parents, and, lots of other people. But that's how it was then at the time. They didn't know, how to deal with that. They didn't know how to cope. And it was a big journey for them from that moment on, just as it kind of was a continuing journey for me. And it took a few years. But it's those sorts of experience. And of course, that's a big experience of mine, big experience. It had a lot of impact on my life. And it's those sorts of impactful situations that kind of led me down the path to doing what I'm doing now, which is helping people not necessarily, come to terms with their sexuality or anything along those lines, but it is just helping people see for themselves that no matter what their situation is, there is a way forward. There is a plan.
Yeah,
there needs to be a plan.
Well, thank you for your honesty there, Harry, and recalling the story. What piece of advice would you now give to yourself, if you could, at that point when your mother has just left your bedroom and you just screamed at her? What advice would you give to yourself?
It would be a case of saying that everything is going to be all right. It's an emotional time. It's an emotionally charged time, but ultimately, everything is going to be all right, because it always can be. We are in control of our own lives. And even if things had gone, even worse, if my relationship with my parents had soured and they couldn't come to terms with it and they couldn't deal with it, that's fine. That's their baggage. That's their demons. That's not mine to carry. That's not my cross to bear. So for me, you'll be fine. You will be fine. But it's about taking ownership. You've got to recognize who you are and recognize and appreciate that you're only limited by your own imagination. Yeah,
completely. And that's what I want, because that's how you help people now with their limiting beliefs, their mindset, to overcome the challenges that they're facing at the minute. At what point did you realise the voice in your head helps or hinders you, and you can work with that? Is there a particular defining moment of your career when mindset was kind of like a switch was flicked and you was like, this is the answer?
I don't think so. I think it was more of a little drip feed, that just bit by bit, you keep hearing and you keep seeing those same messages. And so bit by bit, it helps you grow your confidence. And so you might try a few different things, and sure, things might not go brilliantly, but it quietly, bit by bit, it builds your confidence, and you can test those sort of boundaries. And then suddenly you just come to realize that actually this is what it's all about. And I suppose what's helped for me personally, over the last, decade, perhaps even longer, I am interested in, learning, professional development, personal development. I have audio books and, all that kind of stuff. I've got a mountain of book, real books to still plow my way through. But I like learning, and mindset is also, as I say, over the last kind of decade in particular, it is becoming a little bit more mainstream, I think, and people are taking note more so than they've done, in the past. Because let's face it, you don't have to go that far back when, mindset wasn't really an issue. It was just a case of you've got to get in there and you've got to do it. Even, as I talk to my dad now, so he's what, 70 this year. He won't appreciate me telling you that. But he, he is of, an old school kind of mindset and generation, that your problems you don't sort of talk about, you just keep pushing through, and you keep working at it. Well, I would argue that, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to keep getting the same results. Maybe we can look at this a different way, and perhaps, who knows, but perhaps too, the next generation sort of after me, someone in the 20s, they might consider some of the stuff that I'm doing. I mean, I hope not, but they might consider some of the stuff that I do to be, on its way out. I don't know. I try and keep myself on the right side of that, to be fair.
Yeah. No, completely. I resonate with a lot of what you're saying. So, and by your own admission, when you were talking through your story at the start, you said you did all right in your GCSEs. In your A levels, you didn't get as great results, and now you've just described yourself as a keen learner.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. What's caused that? Is there a moment, or is it the subject? What is it, Harry?
When I left school, so obviously school was not a good place for me. I don't have, great memories of school really at all. And I think that had the impact. When I then went to college to do a higher national diploma, this was in hotel management, essentially, so the hospitality qualification, I did really well, because it was new people, new place. There was no backstory that came with me, and being sort of 18, 19, 20, I was a bit more confident with who I was, and this was the point of me being a confident gay man, or at least trying to become a confident gay man. And my qualification, I came out with a distinction, so that again just was a really great kind of uplift and a great feeling for me. And it was really at that point that I thought, you know what, it's not me. There's everyone else. That's not quite the message, but it was more a case of it, I can put myself in the right environment to facilitate my learning that's going to benefit me.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got that choice at school, but when you leave school, you do have those choices. And as I say, after my HND, I went to do a degree in HR, a first degree in HR, then a postgraduate, and I've subsequently done a postgraduate in coaching and mentoring, executive coaching and mentoring. And every single one of those have been, a first or a distinction. Actually, I tell a lie, one of them was a high merit, but I let that pass.
What motivates you, Harry? You're a very, as you said, confident, keen learner. You're very bubbly, appetite for life. And what motivates you? What keeps you going? What drives you?
I think the sense of or the opportunity for achievement. I can only do so much personally. So by being a coach and by helping other people achieve what they want, I can still get the kickback from, the positivity that comes from that and that sense of achievement. So now, I am ambitious and I am driven and I am very open, open-minded, but really kind of open to opportunities and possibilities, and you know, if somebody says, hey, do you want to do this, sure, you know, I mean, within reason, sure, but sure. You know, I went on a walk. I'm not a massive hiker or climber or walker for that matter, but a few of us from a business group that I'm in, we went for a walk, you know, a proper sort of, you know, hill mountain walk. Might have been a hill, I call it a mountain, who knows. But it was, the weather was shocking. I mean, it really was. It was absolutely atrocious. And it was funny because, you know, the people in our group, and there was only 4 of us, they were kind of saying, oh, how are you? You all right? You all right? I'm like, I'm totally fine. You know, I had this great big, you know, rainbow umbrella, you know, which they mocked me for at the beginning. And it's like, that brolly, I tell you, that was the hero of the day. So yeah, so let's go do it. Let's go try things. So I'm more positive to explore and to try and to learn, you know, whatever life may throw at us.
Yeah, I think so important the lessons that you're sharing as well, in everything that you're saying. I guess to come back to the how you help people and with their mindset and overcoming limiting beliefs. What's your definition of a limiting belief? Just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, so a limiting belief is essentially a story that we're telling ourselves that has a negative impact of some description. So it's either stopping us from doing something perhaps, or it's at least suppressing maybe something that we want to do. So it's very much imagined, but it is extremely you know, debilitating if we keep telling this same story, if we have that on repeat.
Yeah, okay, no, perfect. So when we talk about that story, how do you encourage people to quieten that story, or to change that story, or what advice do you give people, or how do you coach them to overcome that?
Sure. So what I think we would naturally try to do is fight it, resist it, and that's the wrong approach, because you can't. So if we sort of kind of take the story of human evolution back a little while, bear with me on this because it is relevant. I'm not just going into story time. This sort of inner voice, you know, our sort of unconscious mind, it's our emotions, it's our instincts. So, you know, back in, you know, caveman times, if we were suddenly faced with, you know, a pack of wolves, we need to do something about it. And that's where you get your fight, flight, you know, freeze, etc. So that kind of mechanism is still within us. But I don't know whether you've noticed this, but we don't tend to find ourselves facing the gaping jaws of a pack of wolves that often these days. So it's having to latch on. Our unconscious mind is latching on to our modern living, but those dangers are just not the same. But our response to those dangers is as strong. But we can't fight that. What we have to do is we have to sort of rationalize it. We have to work with it because it's stronger than we are. You know, how many times have we, you know, made a decision, you know, we've made some sort of choice and then regretted it afterwards. I shouldn't have really done that. And that's because it's your unconscious mind that just, you know, runs the charge. The conscious part of our minds, so us, the real person, we're a bit slower to catch up to the party, which is why it's good to kind of pause, to allow yourself time to reflect and not base your decisions on emotion. And then essentially it's kind of like having a conversation with, you know, yourself, you know, this inner saboteur, and sort of rationalize the process. You know, what is the worst that could happen? Because often the worst thing that could happen is imagined. what will really happen is nothing like what you'll imagine it to be. So by, talking to this inner saboteur and saying, hey, thanks very much, I appreciate your contributions to this situation, but actually this is what I really want to do. I want to grow my career, and in order to grow my career, I know that I have to speak to a lot of people, and here's an opportunity to put myself in front of 50 people. I'm uncomfortable with it. The subconscious mind is maybe uncomfortable with it because you've never done it before. What if you go in there and XYZ happens? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you make a mess of it? What if you, throw up on the stage? Whatever it may be. But those things most likely aren't going to happen. But if you get yourself so worked up and then go into this, into that room, and that's been what's leading it, then you will make a mistake and you will throw up on the stage, and it will be horrible. But that's because it's not been the conscious person leading it. That's because the saboteur has led it and then said, I told you that would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by having the conversation that says, look, thanks very much, but I really want this. I really need this. I've thought about it. I've really considered it, and this works. Then the conversation can become, okay, well, how do we make that easier?
Yeah.
And then when you get to that stage, that inner saboteur will quieten. And the more you do that, the less loud that voice becomes.
I love that. And as you're telling the story, I'm thinking about my boy, who is 8 years old now, but for the last 3 years, he walks ridiculously slow downstairs. And the reason why he walks ridiculously slow downstairs is because when he was learning to walk steps and stuff and walk up and down stairs, there would always be cries of, watch you don't fall down them steps, grab onto the rail, hold, go down on your bum, and all of these things. And then he's internalized these things. And now he walks really slowly, holding onto the handrail. And I said to him the other day, and a while ago in the car, I said, when was the last time you fell down the stairs, Jack? And I've never fallen down the stairs. All right, okay. And it's just, and that for me is kind of like living proof of the conversations that you're saying happen in our heads all of the time and the impact that they have. So yeah, no, I really resonate with everything you said.
And what's important about that story, as is with the case with many limiting beliefs, is that they've kind of been given to us. They're not necessarily our own limiting beliefs. They come from, those sorts of scenarios, and the example that I gave could very well have come from, don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
Strangers are bad. Strangers will hurt you, Can you go and give a talk in front of 50 people you don't know? No way.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes from. But logically, well, why not? Talking to 50 people is no different from me talking to you here, or talking to Matthew, my husband, you talking to your son. We do it all the time.
Completely.
What's different?
Yeah, no,
and it's just that little message that's been planted, and then it's had time to take root.
Yeah, no, completely agree, completely resonate. And I guess I'm conscious of the time, and you're a busy, popular chap, Harry. Two more questions for you. What are you on for your tea tonight?
Okay, that's a great question.
Nobody's ever said that before, Harry, if I'm honest.
well, it kind of is.
Yeah.
because I suppose the initial answer would be, I'm not entirely sure, which is what makes that a great question. I have got some pork out of the freezer, so maybe something to do with that. That might go into a meal tomorrow or later down the line. The honest answer is, I've no idea.
No idea. Love it.
But what I can tell you, if it is an important question to answer, is that we do try to eat healthy, wholesome, whole foods rather than the processed rubbish, which is not good for your kids.
No. There you go. Another piece of value there. These value bombs that you're dropping, Harry, all the way through.
I try.
Yeah. If people wanted to find out more about Harry Armistead, where would they go? What would they do? What would they find?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can certainly check me out on LinkedIn. Very simple, Harry Armistead. Just do a search for me. There's only 2 on there, and one's my dad. So I'm the younger looking one of the 2 photos that you'll look at. But I'm also active on LinkedIn. I have an Instagram account. I am on Twitter, and I've got my website as well, harryarmistead.com. So I am all over social media, apart from TikTok. I'm not on that one just yet.
Just yet, but never say never.
I'm not that cool. I've got to grow into that one.
Yeah. Is that your inner saboteur talking, or is that Harry talking?
It's I think I'm all right at the moment with the stuff that I've got going on. In all honesty, Lee, I don't think at this precise moment in time my target audience are on TikTok. I think more of them are going to be on LinkedIn, which is why I'm focusing there for more.
Yeah. No, perfect. I just want to say something before I go, Harry. Is that when I started the CVs, real people, real stories, real value. It was with the aim of talking to people who have those 3 things, because I was conscious that a lot of the guests that I've had on the podcast, it's 150 odd episodes now, have had a book, or they do presentations and public speaking and all of that stuff, and I wanted to really just get insights from other people. And I think what you've done today, and your honesty, your openness in the conversation that you've had, I just want to thank you for that. It's been a hugely insightful and valuable conversation, and I too can confirm that you are a real person with real stories, and you've offered immense value. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you a little bit better, and good luck with everything that you've got going on, Harry.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Really appreciated being here today. So thanks very much.